everyone, and thanks for tuning in to this edition of CREA's monthly housing market report. I'm your host, Matt Day, and joining me from his own home office on the other side of Ottawa is CREA's senior economist, Shaun Cathcart. Today, we're going to provide a rundown of Canadian home sales activity seen in November. So here we are, the end of 2020. The holidays are fast approaching. Shaun, are you like me and leaving your shopping until the last minute?
Usually, but not this year. I killed it. I'm basically done. One more trip to make tonight.
Good for you. I'm never going to learn, even during a pandemic. So, okay, let's talk housing market activity. Back in March, no one knew what the state of the world would look like come this time, never mind Canada's real estate market. But luckily, as we approach the end of the year, I understand you once again have interesting numbers to share for November sales.
Yeah, well, it's really more of the same. November was yet another month of really strong housing activity across Canada. Best November ever by a margin of more than 11,000 transactions. That's a lot. But really just the same stories in July, August, September, and October. But with 11 months now fully in the books this year, year-to-date sales are only trailing the 2016 record by 0.3%, or about 1,600 transactions, which is not a lot. December is looking a lot like the last 5 months. So I'd say a new annual sales record is probably a lock at this point for 2020. Not exactly a bold call in mid-December, admittedly, but it's going to be a photo finish. We'll probably pass that 2016 number in the third or fourth week of December. 539,000 sales and change is the 2016 record to beat. I think we're going to do it, but only right at the 11th hour.
Wow, what a wild year it's been on all accounts. Normally we take time dissecting those figures, but this is a year-end show, and the people want to know a little bit more about what's going to happen in the year to come. So can you give us a look ahead into 2021?
Sure. Well, think about it. 2021 is only a couple weeks from now. Blink and we're in it. So as we cruise through the last month of this crazy year, sales are still setting records. Demand and supply conditions are the tightest they've ever been right now. Do you see this all turning into a pumpkin at midnight on New Year's Eve? I don't. We are actually relaunching our forecast this month. We're predicting another record year for home sales in 2021. Which is not as extreme as it sounds. It's not actually going to be that hard to beat 2020 if we have a spring market. Honestly, I think that even another year of a really strong price growth and record sales might even be on the low side. If we're able to get that international immigration piece ramped back up as planned, and along with that millennial cohort that just continue to move out of their 20s through their 30s and are increasingly into their 40s in the 2020s, we've just got a lot more people that need somewhere to live. That's been the story so far. It's going to continue to be the story. It may not get as many page views as the more doom and gloom stories that we've all been reading over the last decade or longer. Note to housing bears, we're still waiting on that big crash. So maybe the 2020s will be your decade. But I think the more heads and more households require more roofs story. It's more boring, but it's one that basically writes itself.
I mean, Shaun, I never find the valuable information you provide us as boring. So especially when we continuously talk about record numbers. So on to the next part of the show where we talk about markets tracked by the MLS Home Price Index. What can you tell me about those areas?
Well, again, it's like a broken record from the last few months. We're still looking at the tightest market conditions ever. So in line with that, as expected, the MLS Home Price Index climbed another 1.2% from October to November. It's now up 8% just since the spring when this recovery began. And it's now almost 12% up from a year ago. Now, if we look across the country, we're definitely seeing the biggest gains in Ontario, but Montreal too. Basically double digits, and some number of those Ontario markets into the 20s at this point, and some of them almost touching the 30s on a year-over-year basis. And that's sort of everywhere east of Manitoba, with the exception of Newfoundland and Labrador. But even there, prices have been on the rise these days. Market conditions are firming up everywhere. Same thing in BC and same thing on the prairies. Overall, 2020 is going to be a record year for home sales in Canada with really strong price growth. 2021, not looking all that different.
All right. Well, what a way to end our last show of 2020. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you want to learn more, head on over to CREA.ca or check in with a realtor in your community. On behalf of us all at CREA, happy holidays and have a happy new year. Stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you in January.